I would like to take a moment before we get into today's main episode and to talk about my sponsor for the podcast. Podmatch is a new podcasting site dedicated to all podcasters. The platform helps hosts get connected with potential guests to appear on their show, as well as allow guests to find podcasts that will give them a chance to share their story. Podmatch offers many tools to help organize your page, from to-do lists to episode planning to potentially appearing on a leaderboard. Podmatch has it all. The best part, you have the potential to get paid. And who doesn't like to get paid from home? I like to. With an easy sign up, you can start connecting with podcasters and guests immediately. I have been a part of Podmatch since the beginning of May, and I have got to say that it was the best decision I've ever made because Podmatch helps your podcast grow. It helps you get connected with people that have very interesting, very compelling background stories that are just waiting for their story to be shared. So if you are a host or guest and would like to start building professional relationships, explore more opportunities, and have your story shared, I highly suggest that you sign up with Podmatch today by going to joinpodmatch.com/lethal venom to start expanding your network in seconds. I would like to give another huge thank you to Podmatch for sponsoring this episode. Now on to our main episode, and again, you can sign up at joinpodmatch.com/lethal venom to begin your podcasting journey today. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Lethal Venom podcast. This is a show where I talk about anything I want with the honest to God truth and all as told. And today I have Mr. Aaron Jaeger. He is going to be joining us today. Having spent over 20 years working in the media industry in the field of marketing and video advertising with some of the biggest brands in the world, Aaron has taken the secrets of what he's learned along the way to reveal the tactics used into manipulate the general public and put that knowledge into his new book, Unmasking Deception. The book acts as a guide to help you spot the tactics used in politics, news, and advertising in order to help you break the narrative and keep you awake to what's really going on. So, Aaron, thank you so much for joining on. I can't wait to have our conversation today.
Thanks for having me, Noah. Yeah, really interested to see how this goes.
When I read politics, I thought one of my best friends, I thought, oh, he's going to love this episode. He loves
No,
politics, so he'll love this episode. If you could just do a little introduction of yourself, tell me what you do, and
sure. I mean, that was a great intro. Yeah, being in the media now, I'm coming up on 25 years now in the media, and having worked with being a photojournalist, working with newspapers, working in TV advertising, all the way through to working with real estate agents and selling online courses and all that sort of stuff, being in the marketing game for so long, uh, I started to really realize that a lot of people weren't really clued into the everyday deception that goes on. There's people like to talk about, the fake news and, the lying media and all that sort of stuff. But I think being in the game for so long, I see it so clearly because I know what tactics are being used. I use those tactics myself. And so for the average person that comes across this stuff, that it just sinks in and that's what it's designed to do. It's all based off psychology. It's all designed to, bypass and just go and sink in your head and believe it all. I felt it was really a good time to put my thoughts down into a book and to put the knowledge down there and really try and, yeah, have it as a guide for people to look at and to kind of peel back the the facade that's been placed in front of them. So that's why I wrote the book, and that's where I'm, out here on social media trying um, to get people to see what's in front of them and see what's behind the news.
what do you see as the most manipulative tactic used in media?
Oh, good question. I think the most manipulative thing is really at the moment, I think it's kind of this big lie, right? And the big lie is a concept that comes out of kind of Orwellian terms, right? 1984 style stuff where you see so much these days, people tell the same lie over and over and over again, so convincingly across so many platforms, across so many people that it becomes like you start to question your own reality. Like, am I silly for seeing this as a lie, or is that the actual truth? Because so many people say it, and it can be something from a very small thing to a very large thing, but they just say it with such conviction, and plaster it all across the media that it becomes then picked up and run with from everyone. And I have to question whether some people are doing it. There's a lot of pundits out there that on YouTube and things like that. And I question whether they're doing it knowingly or whether they themselves have brought into this big lie, and that becomes a real danger as well. When people don't know they're lying and they're saying it with such truth, they don't know that they've been kind of bamboozled by the elites, I guess they would call them, the higher ups, you know?
What do you think of people's media literacy in today's day and age?
Uh yeah, not too good. It's really, yeah, some people really struggle with it. From so many people these days are very passive in the way that they consume media, and it's been exacerbated by social media because so many people just, doom scroll constantly, that they're not actively participating in the conversation, they're just passively consuming it. And that's where I really want to encourage people with media literacy to really be an active participant in the media, to not just accept the headlines and, the stories that are being presented to them, but take some time to, people always say, "Oh, I've done my research." Well, actually do your research. Look at the sources, try and find the alternate views and try and piece the story together yourself as well. So yeah, media literacy is kind of probably at its lowest rate. Even even from the age of radio and stuff like that. I think it's we've got so much information, but it's really poorly understood.
With you being a different country, it's interesting. Can you see from a United States standpoint, are we more prone to give out these media illiteracies? Because I feel like we're the main source of the problem of spreading fake news and stuff. I feel like in all these other countries, like England, Japan, they read from us and they think that we're so dumb, which I'll agree, we're dumb. But do you see a lot of like fake news coming from us? And
Yeah, and unfortunately, we've got a pretty prominent Australian to thank for that. Mr. Rupert Murdoch hails from Australia, so he's had a devastating effect on news across the Western media. He not only with Fox News, but here in Australia, he's got a stranglehold on media here as well, and even across in the UK. So to have one person so in control of the narrative, I think that's been a big detriment to society in general. I think to have, that's why the mainstream media fights against social media so much. They don't like this idea of places like TikTok, that have such a freedom of expression because they can't jam their own narrative down our throats, So yeah, it does. I think it's been perfected really with America, the 24-hour news cycle, from the cable news and all that sort of thing. It really has been perfected over there. But a lot of Western countries then do try to emulate that. And some countries are trying to implement laws and things that hold that back and to do better, but it's especially difficult in the age of social media because, the internet, all the big companies are in America essentially. It's very hard to police news that comes across a social media feed compared to news that is presented on a public broadcaster, for instance. And so, yeah, we end up with this split of people living in multiple realities, not just two realities, not just left and right, but multiple realities of their own little bubbles that have been created.
In this day and age, now we have AI being a
Mm.
huge major factor. Do you see AI being a rising issue when it comes to deciphering from the truth as well as from lies? Because AI can do a really good job of depicting something that's not true. And even now,
Mm.
with these videos that come out, you see videos of wild stuff happening out in the world. So, do you see AI doing causing this manipulative tactic to increase?
Yeah, AI can really be a force for good or a force for evil, depending on who's kind of wielding it, right? There's, the dead internet theory is probably something that, a lot of your listeners have heard of before, where, within the next 5, 10 years, it might just be AI bots creating all the pages, creating all the posts, and arguing against each other in the comments. So that becomes a danger because when you when you give people when you give people a task to try and find the most click-worthy news content and the ways to do things, we're pretty good at finding that. When you give a computer with endless brain power and time and energy to devote to that task and give it that singular task, that becomes a real problem for us. And yeah, especially with how you can get AI to create the images, the videos these days. They're even, it would have been what, a year or two ago where Will Smith was eating spaghetti in a video. It looked horrible. And you could, it was all this morphing and weirdness to it.
Mm.
Whereas now we've got, Bigfoot vlogs happening that
I was
I could
just
see.
about to say, I have seen Bigfoot literally acting like Ratchet doing a vlog. No one will believe me that that's on there. I've said, "Have y'all seen this?" And they're like, "What are you talking about?" Oh God, thank
Yeah.
God someone has seen that other than me. Because I was like, when I first saw it, I thought, "What?" I thought,
It's
I was like, "Wait, hold on this minute. Wait." I was like, "Hold on." And I was watching it and
yeah.
I thought, "Really?" I thought, y'all have so much time on your hands. And it blows up and now there's like a fake content creator on here that's portraying a Bigfoot, an AI Bigfoot that's now doing vlogs and
Mm.
doing like dance moves on TikTok, and now it's become a huge content creator. I'm like, I was like,
Yeah.
and then, but that's like the only thing. People have also been doing animals like talking, and I'm just like, y'all. So I can agree with you that it started out real crappy at first because
Mm.
it was really, really easy at first to decipher, oh, that's AI because you can see the glitches in it. You can see the morphing of the face, trying to work around it. But
Mm.
now they've improved so much over just like a year because I feel like it's been
Mm.
one of those things where it's been around, it feels like for years, but it's only been around, hold on, about a year or two, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just see how it's grown over the past 2 years. We gone from, as you said, Will Smith eating spaghetti to Bigfoot twerking on a vlog. Like it's crazy.
Yeah,
So,
and look, it gives amazing use for creativity in certain areas. I mean,
mm,
I'm a documentary filmmaker, and some of the subjects we tackle, there is just no stock footage of it. And to be able to create high end, I don't know, the people in space or things like that would have blown budgets way beyond, the sort of budgets that we're working with. So there's amazing use for it. But when it
mhm,
becomes so realistic that even as an expert in the video and photography field, looking at it, you get caught out.
mhm,
That becomes scary for the general public. I mean, there's a kind of running joke that I continuously see about, these Jesus posts that it's like people are finding Jesus under the ocean in a lobster shape or, these ridiculous concepts and people are believing it. And so again, it's like you can't be a passive consumer anymore. You really have to be aware of what you're looking at. And in a similar vein, even just the other day, I saw a video came across my feed, which was like a CCTV footage, and there was a gorilla and a baby in this zoo, and the gorilla walks up, and the mum's hanging over the edge, and she's like shouting that a baby's there, and the big silverback picks it up and hands the baby back, right? And at first glance, you're looking at it and you're going, "Oh my God, here's another Harambe, right? Like this is not good." And so I kind of watched it and I went, "Oh man, is that?" No, and it was just the final little moment where he hands the baby over that his hand kind of morphed weirdly back through the woman's hand. And you go, ah, yeah, got it, right? But that stopped me in my scroll, and I had to like really look at it and go, no, that can't be real. And so almost everything you see now, you have to make the assumption that it's not real
Hmm.
and kind of prove that it is, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I had a video, I think either last night or night before, come across on Twitter. And I don't know how this video got recommended to me. My Twitter feed just shows some of the wackiest stuff, but it was this, I would assume, woman that was filming. And in the video, it shows her video and this guy that looks like on the outside, looks like she's inside some kind of trailer, looked like a house of some sort. I couldn't really quite tell because all it showed was a window. And there was a man standing there that had this kind of monstrous look on his face. He'd
Hmm.
smile, and it showed like his mouth went all the way out here, and his teeth looked like kind of like a werewolf type.
Hmm.
And I was looking at it, and I thought, I couldn't really tell. I mean, people should see. I was literally like this on my phone. I was like, I was
Right
staring
up
at
in the
it,
face.
and then and he puts his arm up on the window, but the comments didn't help at all. People were like, you should be just calling the police. I don't know why you're standing over there at the window. And I thought, are we just going to ignore the fact that his face looks monstrous? Are we just going to ignore that? Because no
Yeah,
one
yeah.
had mentioned it. And I watched it, I know, about 20 times, and I couldn't decipher. I think it looked like AI to me due to the
Mm,
fact that, and someone said it looked like his face was morphing a little bit.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and then some idiot was like, "Well, it looks like you're on the outside and he's on the inside." I thought
Mm,
there's clothes facing the window of the phone
yeah,
direction on the
yeah,
inside. I thought she's inside. Clearly something. This person's on the outside, but that person's like, looks like you're just looking at him through the outside window. And I thought, no, it's the opposite. But with
Well,
all
even
these
yeah,
involved,
so even like I just seen it happen just the other day where Trump got up at the FIFA Club World Cup, right? And he stands there and presents the trophy, but then doesn't get off stage, right? And the typical thing is you hand the trophy, you move off stage, the team gets to erupt and cheer, right?
mhm,
They get their moment, their photo. Um, Apart from the a massive amount of abuse going back and forth of people from right and left at each other, a lot of comments I got was I thought this was AI at first because it seemed so ridiculous. And you know that becomes a scary thing where reality seems so ridiculous that you go, nah, it's got to be AI. And so it really, in back to the sort of original question you say is like, can an AI be used for good or bad? Well, it can be used for bad, but it can also be used to monitor the bad, right?
mhm.
Facebook got in a whole heap of trouble for the way that they were monitoring, comments and things all around COVID. But there has to be some form of monitoring against AI, picking it out and tagging it when it's shown.
Mhm.
Um, because otherwise people are going to get into these fights over whether they actually saw Bigfoot twerking or not. And, and when we're hitting that level of media literacy and idiocracy, then yeah, we're in big trouble. Yeah.
It's just so weird because it just kind of blew up. And, the only form of AI that I kind of can gather from was ChatGPT or even some like these apps like Socratic that used homework helping where you kind of ask the machine something and it would give you a solution to it. I
Hmm.
That was kind of like my early stages of AI. And I use I used AI I mean, I'll admit it. I used it in school. I used it on assignments. It
Mhm.
worked half the time, and other times it couldn't really decipher what I was doing. And for a lot of people that don't know, my artwork for the podcast is AI.
Mhm.
I didn't design
Mm.
that. I just went on Photoshop and just told it what it was. Now, did I get this exact image on the first try? No, because
Mm.
it took a lot of tries, but I'll admit that I did use AI for the artwork,
Mhm.
but that's the kind of AI I use it for. It's just something that if I'm not able to do it, I just know that a computer could do it for me. So that's why I
Yeah.
use like the Photoshop AI. That's why I kind of use some of the Chat GPT is to help just kind of get a better summary of stuff. That's kind of what I
Mm.
use, which you can use AI. Now, I don't want to be ranting and dissing AI for that. I mean,
Mm.
it's I think AI is such a great tool. It's like you said earlier, a great way to show people's creativity, and it helps.
Mm.
I mean, I would much rather. I wouldn't want to see like a monstrous person on the outside. I'd rather see Bigfoot in the woods twerking. That's kind of the more AI version that
Yeah.
I'd be down for. So I mean, if
Yeah.
you wanted to make that kind of AI, please do and send it to me.
Yeah.
But it we gotta to do like fake AI stuff, like announcing these huge things of like you said, Jesus in a shell underwater. I mean,
Yeah.
y'all. I mean, because there's gonna be someone out there that's gonna believe that, and
Mm.
because I
It's
could
the
simply just say,
deceptive practices that
mm,
that really come in, right? Like when you're using it for deceptive purposes, like you say, you're using it for a bit of artwork. Um, yeah, you might get some graphic designers not happy with that idea because you're not paying them. But that's where it allows creativity on the smaller scale, where, when people don't have the budget and you can jump in and you can do things yourself, fantastic, right? But when you're using anything in this, all the way back to any sort of form of media, when you're using things for deceptive practices, that's where it really becomes an issue, I feel.
how can we, as the general public, this is not just like U.S. people, this is not for Australian, this is like just for everyone. How can we, as the general public, change this and try to fix the tactic of fake news?
Yeah, I think what the general public has to do is really vote with your feet, vote with your clicks, vote with your eyeballs, um, vote with your money, right? Um, Facebook needs engagement, TikTok needs engagement, Instagram, all these platforms, YouTube, everything, they need the engagement. So if you see something that is fake news, actual fake news, don't engage in it. Report it if it's something that's you know, harmful, you know, vote with what they want to see, because the more that these platforms see that you're not engaging with them, like Facebook took away their moderators, right? Now there's arguments against moderators being on Facebook and how far they went with COVID and all that sort of stuff. But now we have to be the moderators. So if you don't like what you see on that platform, stop using it, stop visiting it. Go to a platform that does put truth and, honest news as their forefront, because all these, kind of moving back to AI and algorithms and things, Facebook and everything, they work just on pure algorithms. It's not really someone, or a team of people sitting in a dark room deciding, which post goes viral and which doesn't. It's a computer algorithm. And so if we can tell that computer algorithm that we don't accept this, then they will stop. That algorithm won't promote, fake news if it's not being engaged with. And this is where people get suckered into the engagement. And it's very, they're doing this 100% on purpose, right? They're creating a headline that is just a juicy headline that it's going to cause people to argue over it. If you jump into that comment section and start arguing back and forth, you are giving them the engagement. Whether you're trying to argue for the truth or not, you're giving engagement to that post. And
Mhm.
so that post is going to be seen by more people. So sometimes you just have to stop and go, nope, I'm moving past that. It's not going to pull me in. And the more that you do that, and the more that you follow accounts of, there's a whole bunch of people on social media that reporting news stories and things like that. If you follow the accounts, if you engage with the people who are doing the right thing, the algorithms are going to push that engagement and going to start putting that forward as what their business model needs to be. And then when you're talking actual mainstream media, it's a click of a button. It's the unsubscribe. It's the don't buy the subscription to the newspaper, Daily Mail, New York Post, Washington Post, whatever it is. If you don't agree with what they're doing, don't buy their subscription. Don't pick up their newspapers. Don't, watch their news channel. They are driven by numbers. They're driven by ratings. And that's why places like Fox News do such wild statements because they know that's going to get people engaged and locked in, right? And when you're talking for that traditional mainstream media and even really social media, it's ad revenue, right? So it's subscriptions and ad revenue. So if you are watching, it happens all the time where you'd be watching news and they'll go lead with breaking story. And then they'll go into a couple of other stories without telling you the juicy gossip that was in their big breaking story. Just after the break, we're going to go to that breaking story. Well, then you got to sit through your medical adverts and whatever to get to that next story. And then again, they'll drag it and drag it and drag it so that they're pulling you through the news. And then we're going to talk to a bunch of talking heads about this breaking story after the next break. They're suckering you in to watch the ads. So just you have to disconnect. You have to push away from it. And yeah, the more that you're engaging with the right platforms, the right media, the more these other medias that are doing the, salacious fake news stuff are going to just fall by the wayside because there's going to be no one to listen to it.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. When you were saying that, I've had and seen multiple stories this locally in my state. For anyone that lives in Alabama, you know that we have a very popular meteorologist that lives here.
Right.
And there was a post that was on Facebook just from someone that had just concocted this whole story. It was this like huge long Facebook post saying that he had announced retirement. And then you got to go on his page, on his main one, and say, "This is not true. I have not announced anything for retirement. Don't believe it." And I mean, had to back up what he was like, had to come to defend himself.
Mm,
And everyone in the comments of that video or on that post were just like, believed it.
mm,
And it's one of those things where you can't really, um, it's one of those things where you have to go and check out his page or check
mm,
out the news station that he's affiliated with to see if this is true. So, because
mm.
some people I could just tell read that and just commented on it, not even going to do research, didn't even go to double check or
Right.
nothing. We live in such a age where some people will come out with these huge conspiracy theories.
Mm,
It's all these theories here. I don't know if Australia's covered it, but the Texas floods has happened.
yeah.
That was
Yeah.
such a huge natural disaster, and now they're saying that meteorologists had some kind of blame on it, that they had some kind of control to where people here, not in our state, but out in like I think Oklahoma or stuff, were going to weather radars and destroying them because
Mm,
they thought that the weather radars caused the disaster to happen and that it was some
yeah.
kind of it. I couldn't tell if it was some kind of government related thing. It probably was, or what they thought it was.
Mm,
Yeah, they went and I literally saw videos of like a surveillance footage of these guys breaking into a weather tower and were trying to destroy it. And I
mm,
thought, And I saw multiple meteorologists have to come on here and describe what happened and give this
Yeah.
long, detailed thing. And some people still didn't believe it. So, and then I've seen now conspiracy theories about 9/11 and some theories about how they're thinking that it was fake, how
Yeah, you got
stupid we
I mean,
are.
yeah, you got people out there then, in your Congress talking about, Jewish space lasers and stuff like that after the Maui fires and, the this is one of the big issues as well when we're talking the the whole fake narrative and that big lie. Um, People want to seem like they're on the inside, right? That they're special, right? And
Mhm.
I get it. Everyone wants to feel special, you know? It reminds me of like, I know when you're at school, right? High school gossip and stuff goes around, and you might have a friend come up to you and go, "Hey, so and so done this. Don't tell anyone. I wasn't meant to tell anyone, but I told you, right?" And you go, "Oh, yeah, I got the inside news, right? I got the inside. You're kind of special now. You've got this inside knowledge, and you can walk around in your head all day going, oh, I know this thing that no one else does, right?"
Mhm.
That's the exact same thing with all these conspiracy theories that's going on, right? Is there's, there's so many different conspiracy theories that we can touch on, but a lot of it does boil down to I want to feel like I know something that you don't, right? So when it's that meteorology example and the Texas floods, it's a absolute tragedy. There's things that have factually gone wrong and things that are just unavoidable. To start spruiking lies out there about some secret government plan or meteorologist are out there to get you or any of that sort of stuff, people then attach to that because they might be in that conspiracy tribe. And then they go, oh, well, yeah, I've got the knowledge that you don't. You think it was just this big flood, but I know they caused it with the satellites.
Mhm.
And and that's all it is. And it's the same when you look into, you know, the whole MAGA movement and that whole big conspiratorial thing. I'll give them this, that to believe in no conspiracies is probably the weirdest conspiracy out there. Like, there's definitely things that are weird about the world, but they want to just have this special knowledge and feel like they're more special than you because they've got the inside scoop. So you haven't done your research, you know? That's what it falls down to.
I just want the conspiracy theories to go back like it was when I was growing up, when it came to like normal stuff. Like, did Dora the Explorer have a secret affair with Diego? Like, that's the kind of conspiracy theories that I want. I want to know if SpongeBob had a secret affair with Sandy. I mean, those are the kinds of theories I want to know. I don't want to know about all these politics and stuff. I don't care about that. I'm more interested in the childhood stuff. Like,
And
it's like,
and it's Well, and it's a distraction from what the real issues are. And
mm,
this what bugs me the most about where we're at in this split world is that there's so much distraction. And uh, the right in America, MAGA with Steve Bannon and some of the other ghouls that are behind the scenes talk about it as flooding the zone, right?
mm.
That you have so much information coming out on a daily basis that you cannot keep up with the news. There's so many distractions and so many things going on. And while we're all looking at this pretty shiny thing over here, they're getting away with so much stuff in the background because we're not paying attention. And so all these conspiracy theories and these fake news and these distractions and not understanding what is kind of what we should be focusing on, what it's kind of just a passable thing, that just leaves us vulnerable to actual real world harm. And they know it. And places like, the Fox Newses of the world and things like that, they know it too. And that's why they're keeping us distracted by silly stories. I mean, I can remember back with Obama and the tan suit. He wore a tan suit and it was like the biggest chaos for ages. Yet now there's legitimate things that are happening on the everyday, and they're trying to distract you here, there, and everywhere. And so it becomes really hard as a person who, as I said, most of us are passively engaging in media. Even if you're actively a part of it, it becomes really hard to decipher what should be focused on, what shouldn't be focused on, and where to actually place your energy. And a great example here in Australia is we just had our elections a little while ago, a few months ago, and one of the big concerns was whether we've got the Aboriginal people here, they've got their own flag, the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders have their own flag, and then we've got the Australian flag. The current Prime Minister stands in front of all three. The guy that was coming up as opposition was going, no, 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 I'm not going to stand in front of the Aboriginal flag, right? What a non-issue to distract everyone over. Meanwhile, we've got some of the biggest energy resources of gas and coal and things in our country that are being taken by massive corporations for $0 back to us, paying zero taxes, paying zero royalties for it. Yet we're divided and talking about what flag someone's going to stand in front of. And they know that. And the right-wing media know, and their donors of those media organizations know that, well, we need to keep the general public distracted, or else they're going to find out and they're going to start focusing on real issues. And the real issue isn't left and right. The real issue generally comes down to, up and down, and it's that upper crust that are trying to keep us all fighting against each other with silly news stories and distractions. Yeah.
Politics here, I think we have such a corrupt sense of intelligence when it comes to politics here. I don't know how everywhere else in the world is. It sounds like in Australia, y'all have fights about stuff like who should be standing in front of a flag. I mean, when you said that, I thought that'd be something here. Because I'm just thinking someone could be like, why are there only 50 stars? And then I'll be like, well, and I'll be like, well, common
Yeah.
knowledge would be 50, like 50 states. And
Yeah.
then now we're worried about the Gulf of, well, I was about to say Mexico, but then I was like, I'll have someone be like, no, it's not. And I'll be like, I'm just gonna say the Gulf.
Yeah. Yeah.
So y'all don't come for me. So,
Yeah.
and now we're worried about changing names of the ocean. We're worried about
Yeah.
getting Canada as part of the USA. Like, and I'm over
Yeah.
here like, I'm still waiting for my $2 gas. I want my $2 worth of gas. I want to be
Yeah.
able
Yeah.
to fill my tank on $15 and be able to go for a week or two without gas. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm still
Yeah. I want
waiting
my
for
eggs
that.
cheaper. Yeah.
Yeah, like cheaper
Yeah.
groceries.
Yeah.
So, it's politics here is just so out of you can't say Trump without
Mm.
affecting and offending so many people. You can't say Biden without offending so many people. That's
Mm.
why all my friends were political. I just kept my mouth shut
Mm.
because I was like, I'm not gonna say no nothing because y'all are gonna come down my throat. Y'all are gonna rip me to shreds over my
Yeah.
opinions. I'm not gonna be here for it. So, and
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I didn't vote this election. I didn't
Yep.
because I didn't think any candidate was liable for it.
Yep.
People can agree with that. You'd be like, you were the reason why we have our president now because you didn't vote. And I'll be like, well, listen, I was focusing on graduating from college. So
Mm.
honestly, school at that point was more important to me. So
Yeah.
y'all can suck
Well,
it. I'm
look,
like, I don't care.
I I think the whole left and right debate, where I see it is the tribalism is the biggest issue there. Um, I have very, very close friends and business colleagues and clients that I work with um, who are in the top 1% of my country, right? They are voters for conservative parties. And when you talk to people about actual policy and, you know, what actually matters to them, we're more alike than what, the media really wants us to believe we are. Most people, they just want to have a roof over their head. They want to be able to feed their family. They want to be able to live a decent life. Um,
Mhm.
and this is where when you fall into a camp of hard left, hard right. I am left, so I believe all this stuff. I am right, so I believe all this stuff. That's where this kind of brain rot sets in, right? Like you should always um, I'm atheist by religion belief, right? And it is always a matter of questioning your belief, questioning your stance. Being scientific is to question things and kind of assume that you might be wrong about them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when someone presents you an argument of left or right, you shouldn't go first of all to, well, what does my camp think about this? You should just go to, well, what do I think about this? And then make up your mind about that. I am very left wing in a lot of areas in my life, but I'm also a business owner. So I understand when conservatives are raging about the amount of tax you have to pay and, the red tape and all this sort of stuff that you go on and how hard it is for small business. I get that. So to have traditional conservative views on, say, economics, sure, I can understand some of them. Not all of them,
Mm-hmm.
maybe, but some of them, right? To have fully, left-wing views about economies and be, I would push more to a socialist world than a conservative one. But to just be going, well, nothing that the other side says can be right because my side says it's not right, you've shut off. You've flicked the switch off. You got to think for yourself and understand like there's nuance to arguments. You shouldn't be uh, the the American political sphere has done, I think, major damage to a lot of the Western political sphere because you guys have a two-party system.
Mm-hmm.
In Australia, we don't operate off a two-party system, but people are so entrenched and engaged with American politics and how American democracy works. And we have two major parties, but that's not how our system of government should work.
Mm-hmm.
And so during the election in Australia here, I was fighting a lot just to get people to vote third party. Vote for the Greens. Vote if you want to vote for your hard right-wing party, go vote for them. Stop voting two-party system because a two-party system just creates this gridlock the whole time. You should be more nuanced in your policies. You should be more nuanced in your politics, and you shouldn't just go, you know, like the news comes across about Trump. You can't just immediately go, well, he's a moron, and so I'm not going to disagree with it because my party thinks he's a moron, or he's the king because my party thinks he's the king. You got to go, well, this is a objectively silly thing that he done, or this is an objectively good thing he's done. I can agree with Trump on things, and I cannot agree with him on things. It doesn't make me a bad person. You know, you can't be so tribalistic in it. You really have to look for that nuance. And that's where, again, that media literacy of seeing the news as it's displayed and finding out, okay, if it's a headline that is crazy and drives emotion in you, firstly ask, why did that draw emotion? Why am I enraged by this headline? Why do I want to jump in the comments and tell everyone they're idiots? Like
Mm-hmm.
defend this headline or attack this head. If that's caused you emotion, sit back and go, okay, they're plucking at that, they're trying to poke that bear, right?
Mm-hmm.
So figure out why it's caused you emotion and figure out actual truth behind it and try and look at things objectively without dragging your emotions into it because otherwise you're just going to get dragged around left and right.
I want listeners to this really focus on what he said, because what he said is what I preach all the time. You can't just assume stuff. You can't just assume because if you're Democratic that everything that Republicans do should be looked down upon and anything. And
Mm.
same thing with Republicans. I always say to just believe what you want to believe in. look at what both sides are doing. Look at what, for example, in this election, you could have looked at, okay, let's see what Trump is wanting to do. Let's
Mm,
see what Kamala wants to do. Decipher what you want and vote. Just because you
mm,
were raised in a Democratic household means you have to vote Democratic every single year. Because there's some people that are like part of the Democratic Party and they'll only vote Democratic till the day they die.
mm.
And
Yeah.
that's not true. I was one of those people that I voted for who I thought was the best. And I've only done in one election. I voted in the
Mm,
2020 election.
mm,
And I kind of voted because my parents voted, but because in all honesty, and I'm probably gonna get screwed over for this, I thought Trump did a good job for his first term back in 2016.
sure.
I enjoyed the cheap gas and I enjoyed like a lot of the pricing for that. But
Mm,
again, I'm not a huge political person. I don't study that. I don't read it. I don't breathe it. I don't live by it. I just live by normal day life.
mm,
I don't care because what this over here does is that they'll try to say, okay, I'll listen to what you have to say and then I'll put my 2 cents in there. And
mm,
then they always judge you. They'll judge you because if I said I voted for Harris,
mm,
every person that's a Republican will look upon me and look down on me. They will block me out of their life, never talk to me
mm.
again. It's the same
Yeah.
thing for Democrats. If I voted for Trump and said that I was vocal about it and said voted, I tell you 100% of these Democrats that are full blood Democrats would look at you and be like, I'm not talking to you again. You're toxic, you're
Mm,
poison, stay away from me. And that's not true. I don't look at politics as a way for personality. I mean,
mm.
if that was the case, half the people I was friends with, I wouldn't be friends with. I overlook what their political stance is. Like
Yeah.
I mean, we live in an age like of if people don't like Disney, you just don't want to be friends with them. I mean, if that was the case,
Yeah.
I'd have
Yeah.
nobody. Like,
Yeah.
you can't just
Yeah.
live off of their opinions. You can't just be like, oh, they did this. I'm not going to support that. You don't have to support what they believe in. I mean, you have your own
Mm,
opinion. You can have it. And the thing that journalists have is that journalists always get the calls and hatred when it comes to news because we always ask the questions that people want to know. And yet, when
mm.
we try to interview them, people get pissed off at us because
Yeah.
we ask such questions that people want to know an answer to. And then we also get blamed for spreading fake news out there about being in spots that we don't need to be. Like if some reporters, like for like the riots that happened,
Hmm.
if I was a journalist, I would not be putting myself out there and
Hmm.
where in case of getting shot at, getting a rock thrown at me.
Mm,
I wouldn't put myself in that situation. And I feel like if I was like work for a news station, for me, I'd say safety would be the main reason. Like I feel like
mm,
some news stations put these journalists in such dangerous situations
mm.
of, and I mean, say that I'm a pussy for it. I mean, if that's what I want to be portrayed as, fine. But you say my ass is not going to be out there in the middle of a war trying to report a story. I'm sorry, but
That's fair. Yeah.
if it
Yeah.
got paid, I'd much rather would like pay and report from it 5 miles away. I don't want to be right in the
Yeah.
middle of a street. Here's a ride over
Yeah.
here happening. Here's a ride over here happening. And here they come rushing over at me. I'm not about to
Yeah.
do that. I'm not putting my life out there for that. No. And people can think, well,
Well,
then that you're not going to do your job and show the real stuff. Because another thing that a lot of news companies do that they don't like is they want us to show us the real stuff. But yet
mm,
if they do like a shooting that happens, if a car crash happens, they pan that camera away because they think,
yeah.
and I understand that you can't show that due to kids,
Yeah.
but there's going to be some people out there that say, well, y'all want to show what's happening in the real world and show like what happens in these places, but yet y'all don't show it.
Yeah, and that's one of the parts of media literacy that you got to look at as well is knowing how they're framing a story, right? And it can be the literal frame that they use. And I use an example in a book about, if you were at a riot. right? As a camera operator, I turn up to a riot with my journalist and I look at the scene and we're told that we got to get down there and cover it by our news station, right? Now, if you had two different news stations and one was telling you to make that riot look bad and that it's chaos, and you had another news station that's telling you to make it look calm and peaceful, you can do that. I can tell that story no matter what, right? So you could get to the riot and it could be 10 police standing across from 20 protesters. They could be on the opposite side of the street, right? If you want to make that look bad, you might go behind the police officer and get a really tight shot of the police officer and the crowd yelling at them, and you can use a certain lens that will kind of squash that scene together to make it look like the protesters are right up in their face and yelling and screaming. And when you take that back into your edit room, you're not going to find the spot where the protester was just standing there looking boring. You're going to find the most out there screaming protester to use that in your news story.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on that opposite side, if you turn up to the protest and you're told to make it look good, well, they're standing on opposite sides of the street. You could use a really wide angle lens, stand right dead center in that street and film that wide angle, and they're going to look miles apart. You could then go back and find the piece of footage that you recorded where a police officer's yawning because they're bored, right? And you could use that in your news story. And when you look at those two different news stories, you're going to have one side of the public that fully believes that was a violent protest because that is the reality that they saw. And you're going to have another side of the public that feels that was peaceful because that's the reality they saw. And when
Mm-hmm.
you have those kind of confronting ideas that they're just headbutting against each other, where you are living in two separate realities, it's hard to come to that middle ground.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're talking politics and any side, that's where I kind of try and encourage people to come back into the center more. You need that kind of tug from either side of the far to kind of guide us along on our path into the future. But like you say, it happens especially in America, and it does happen in Australia and UK and other places, Canada as well, where, yeah, you're a Republican family, you're a Democrat family. So what? Like, if you're a Republican family, but you're living in a trailer park, you may not have as much in common with the people up the top end of the street that
Mm-hmm.
trying to implement tax cuts for the rich and things like that. If
Yep.
you're, and the same goes for the Democratic side. And I see it often, like on my TikTok accounts where I post a lot about political things and trying to, highlight this media literacy. And I'll get people on posts that I do about Trump that will go, you're, just a Democrat and da da da, and like use, Democrat and all this sort of stuff, right? And you're like, mate, I'm not even from your country. So I'm not one or the other anyway. And then you haven't seen the post where I was attacking the left-wing person just 10 days ago. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I'm not out here trying to attack sides. Both sides have key issues though that they do wrong, so I'm just going to try and highlight those for everyone to see. You know, um, and that's where I feel when it comes to the two sides in my book that I try and be as bipartisan really as possible, but there is this again coming back to whether you're lying for kind of demonstrable purposes or whether you're trying to push a, a, a narrative towards a more positive purpose. Both are not great, but one's definitely worse than the other.
Yep.
Um, and I feel like the lies that get told from a real top end narrative, that's where real harm gets caused. And that's where we need to focus, you know?
I always hear like a lot of people that say, I just want to move to America because wherever they're living at, it's just they just don't have freedom. And I'm always like, well, no, I wouldn't recommend anyone coming to our country at all.
Yeah.
I don't recommend it. I don't. And
Yeah.
it's not like that we don't want you here. It's just you'll be miserable here. I mean, the I'm just gonna be honest about it. Like, people are always like, "Oh, America's so much of the land of the free," and I thought, well, used to be, not anymore. I'd stay where
Mm,
you are. And it politics is just such a really touchy subject. I mean, I remember when they were trying to bring 2020 election, I think got so overwhelmed with political stuff. I mean, it got so bad to where I couldn't really get on any social media platform. And
hmm
it's not like I don't blame people for posting it. I just got tired of seeing it because
Yeah.
everywhere, like Facebook, and it was Twitter, Instagram, and even my Snapchat and
Yeah.
TikTok, and it was just everywhere. And I couldn't get a moment's peace because it was just so stressful for me to look at every day, and it was just so much hate. And
Mm,
I just wish that as a society, and I'm just saying this as American, this is just as an American speaking. From my experience here, we're very judgy. We judge everyone for everything. We have people that will disagree with everything you say. And
hmm
it's hard to try to convince people to not think like that
mm,
because they've got it engraved in their head that they have to be the opposite of what everything is. I mean,
mm.
so uh,
Yeah,
for
just to
people that
be,
always like want to come to the United States, I'd been like, well, honestly, I wouldn't recommend it. It's not
mm,
livable here. I mean, we have a lot of stuff to do, but you have to bypass the people that live here. You have to kind of go by the laws that we have, and
mm.
I just don't recommend it. Sure, you can
I
come here to
mean,
visit,
yeah,
but
as
I
an
wouldn't
Australian,
permanently live here.
yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, as an Australian, I'm very, very blessed with the country that I've grown up in and where I live. I mean, I've got two kids. I don't have to worry when I send them to school. They can go to school without, metal plates in their backpacks. Um, very blessed with, there's issues here for sure, but it's a great country. And I used to be really growing up. I think the I talk about America's, with Hollywood being its greatest advertisement, right? It's Hollywood's been one of the best propaganda tools of any era because so many people see American media, American music, American everything, right, is shown to us around the world. It's very popular. And as a teenager, I brought fully into it. I wanted to move and I wanted to live in America and, make movies and do all that sort of stuff, right? Um, and I've been fortunate to travel a lot of America and, looking at it now, I don't know if I'd be allowed into America because I post anti-Trump stuff. I don't know if I'd make it past the airport anymore. Um, and this is a bad place to be.
Hmm.
America was the shining light of democracy. And that's what for me is really heartbreaking because, you know, it used to be follow us as a leading example of what democracy should be. But people like your Rupert Murdochs have really got in there and controlled the narrative to such a degree that uh, countries on the outside looking into America have to be wondering, why do we want to be like them? It's been some bad advertising for the past 10 or so years, right?
Hmm.
Um, and that really comes down to again like trying to leave the extremes and come back to a shared reality. And a shared reality can only happen when you are actively participating with each other to reach that goal. You can't just look at, what Fox News says or what MSNBC says and go, that's my truth. You really have to try and pass it out and pick what is the truth for you and what is the the most that you have in common with another person on the issue, right? Um, for any issue that you put forward, whether it be immigration or the wars or, yeah, petrol. Everyone wants cheaper petrol. How we go about it might be a little bit different though. So we can at least agree on a shared reality of wanting cheaper petrol. How we get there is just in the details, you know? So let's not get caught up and fight each other about the details. Let's try and come to an agreement, and breaking yourself out of those bubbles is really difficult and it's not very pleasant. Um, I certainly found myself in a very left-wing bubble where the media that I was consuming was all left-wing stuff, right? I was not, Ben Shapiro's and, those sort of guys, right? They were the people that, I'm not listening to them. They're always lying and da 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 da, right? So if you block that side out, though, you never get to hear their side. You never get to try and understand why they're coming to their conclusions or understand why they are lying or what their truth is, right? So you have to try and force yourself into understanding the other side's point of view. And that's where, again, that tribalism doesn't do us any good because if you're just pure, this is what my team says, so I'm not moving from that, you're never actually going to get anywhere. And this is where, like, taking it back to that two-party system, you see this. uh, I want progress in my life, right? I want to see a world that is more advanced, more technologically superior. I want to see what the future holds. I don't want to see every 4 years or every 3 years this just back and forth taking us nowhere. I want to see amazing things happen. And if you're going from one party to the other every 4 years, and every 4 years they're just reversing everything the other person did,
Yep.
you don't move anywhere. You're not getting anywhere. It's this like ridiculous turtle's pace that you're going at. We could be moving towards a better future. Instead, we're just going back and forth, and it's painful to see.
Yeah, I know because surprisingly, I have listeners that don't all live in the US. I have listeners that listen to my show worldwide, and I know a lot of people are probably ask that question, well, what did happen? Like, why is America so messed up as it is? And, I honestly don't really have an answer for that. It's gotten bad, like you said, over the past 10 years. I think 2015, 2016, when we had that new election come up, that's when I think our country did go corrupt
Mm,
a little bit. But I just remember like growing up, living in the 2000s. I mean, it was just a different decade. It was just a different lifestyle. I mean, it you didn't have to worry about your kid going to school and have that thought of, are they going to be able to make it home? It's a thought
mm,
of, are you able to go to the grocery store and make it back?
yeah,
It's so it's just such a sad thing to think about that, and I feel so bad for the kids this generation because we have so many school shootings here. It's
yeah,
outrageous and it's absurd how know how many shootings happen every day.
mm,
Um, it's growing up like you said about a metal plate. I know some people are going to think that that's outrageous, but honestly, here you have to think like that. And you have to
yeah,
go to
yeah,
that step to keep your kids safe.
mm,
And I know our state legislatives for Alabama has gone out with a new law saying that they're wanting to ban cell phones for public school use. And like you can't have your phone anymore.
hmm,
I know for a parent, and I feel that for me, that if I was a parent and I had a kid, I would feel at ease knowing that if something happened at my child's
mm,
school, I would want my child to text me and say,
yeah,
something's going on, you need to come get me. Instead
yeah,
of sitting there knowing that they can't have their phone and you go through the whole mind of, is my child out of the classroom? Are they dead lying on the
mm,
floor? Are they being held
yeah,
hostage? I
yeah,
mean, you have all
yeah,
these statements and I live in such a southern state and a lot of people have stereotypes about southerners, about our lifestyles, and one of the
Yeah.
things that really made me mad was a lot of parents were so for the cell phones. And it's a thing of, well, these kids these days need to be off their phones and need to be um off their iPads and stuff. They don't need to be, we send them to school to learn.
Mm.
And some parent and some people were so pro for it. They need the phones need to be banned. And I'm just sitting there thinking, I'm scratching out the whole because I'm in that age where I was addicted to phones. I am, but I'm
Yeah.
thinking of it as like a world lively thing. How would you feel that if your child went to school, was shot, and you couldn't find out about anything until hours later? You wouldn't be
Mm.
so happy and are very supportive of that law then because
Yeah.
your child could easily have texted you saying, "Oh my God, I just got shot. You need to come
Uh,
get me." You won't be so supportive of that law then.
yeah.
I can
Or I'm
guarantee you,
okay. Yeah.
right? You won't be so
And look,
supportive of that.
it's a funny one because as an Australian, that's an absolute wild thing to have to consider. You know, the ban on phones to have to consider well, what if my child ends up in a mass shooting?
Hmm.
Um, that is wild as well. Um, but I think, you know, when you're yeah, it sort of brings back that idea of like we all just want safety, right? We all want to live in a world where we can get along with our neighbors, right? And we do. And for the most part, politics isn't brought up here. I don't know, you know, that I've got dozens of neighbors around me that I talk with every day. I don't know their politics. I just know that they're good people that want to take care of their family. Um, and you sort of asked at the start of that, you know, trying to think back as to where it all went wrong.
Hmm.
And one of the big areas is when the 24-hour news cycle began, because that's when news become more than telling you the day's activities and what happened to having to constantly say something to keep on air. Um, And a really ridiculous example for this is Anchorman 2, the movie with Will Ferrell, right? As ridiculous as it is, you watch that and they are just there, just riffing on ridiculous stuff and, you know, watching a car chase trying to figure out you know, how they can make it newsworthy. And he's like,
Hmm.
you know, pretty sure at some stage he shouts like, can someone like shoot the guy or can he crash his car or something? Like, this 24-hour news cycle was invented that then turned news into this popularity contest instead of just telling what the news is. And then when you have social media that's been added on top of that, you I mean, it's there. It's right next to you at all times. You can't get away from the idea that something could be happening right now that you need to pay attention to. And so you're bombarded again with that kind of flood the zone. You're bombarded with so much that it becomes really hard to share a reality with someone on the opposite side. And when people are out there and using that, you know, mainstream media thing and, you know, MSNBC are liars or CBS or Fox News are all liars, you have to try to recognize when something from your alternate view is correct and when it's not correct. And again, leave that tribalism. And I think one of the things that I push for in my book is really trying to create community around what is real, you know, community around what is misinformation, you know, taking the time to learn and to help educate each other, you know. You can have family members that may be extremely intelligent in some parts of their life, but then just sit there and swallow everything that the news gives them. They turn on their favorite news channel, they read their favorite newspaper, and that's what their belief is. You have to try and encourage people to get out there, learn, and be able to recognize and pass the truth out for themselves. Not listen to the narrative, but, you know, create your own, you know, and come to an understanding with each other.
I remember my mom for this election. I remember she sat me down. I was home for the summer doing summer classes, and I remember we were just watching everything happen on TV, and It was just me and her by ourselves, and she looked at me and she sat me down and said, I might vote for Harris in this election. Would you be mad if I voted for her? And I looked at her and I said, well, no, I'm not going to be mad. I mean, if that's who you want to vote for her.
Mhm.
And I thought, it's scary that we have to now look at someone that we love and be like, are you going to be mad at me if I vote for this person? It's so, it kind of just shows how torn apart people can get. And,
Yeah.
you
There,
know,
there's definitely I think a limit that you can reach. I I have a multicultural family. My wife's Japanese. My kids are half Japanese, half white, right? Uh, if someone's voting for racist views, then yeah, I'm not going to be their friend anymore, right? If someone's voting because they want to kick my wife and kids out and they don't like them, I'm not there for that. And this is where like true conservative values have kind of been almost like made toxic, right? Like true, just like small business, cut the red tape type of values has gone away. And, you're saying like vote Harris. Well, yeah, if you're voting for her purely because of identity politics, again, you're like, you got to vote based on, yeah, again, like a shared reality and common decency of other folks as well. So I think there is a level that can be crossed, and that's where I find like a lot of people are so far gone on either side of like they'll believe anything that their side puts forward. They're the really dangerous ones that, you can kind of understand why people have cut them out of their life or not. But for the majority, I don't think they're that far gone. I think there's more that we can talk about and bring back to keep in common. The thing, that I find the attack against the left is often identity politics and like anti-intellectualism. And people on the left don't really help themselves out a lot of times with that, where, if you're, this is where I feel like for people that have had a poor education, a poor time with the education system, right? Because if you go to school and you have the difference between being, smart from a young age, all the teachers love you, you're the golden child, to going to school and you've been struggling and teachers disciplining you all the time and they're leaving you behind, and you're going to have uh, varied views on the education system and smart people. So if you've been left behind at school, you don't get into university, you go into your trade, and then there's all these, intellectuals telling you that you shouldn't feel a certain way. You're not really going to listen to them, right? Because they're like talking down at you. But if you can be spoken at on a person-to-person basis, they're probably going to be able to connect with you a lot better, right? And so for a lot of these people that are on either side, it's almost like it's not your fault, like we can't be blaming each other for landing in the tribes, but we have to encourage each other to move out of the tribes.
yeah, I always, for me, tell people, vote for who you want to vote for. There's going to be people out there who are going to judge you no matter what. That's just sadly the society we live in. And
Mm,
I know a lot of countries that, you know, here where when I talk about my mom asking me if it was okay, I know some countries are going to look at me and hear that and they're going to be like, "Really? You have to ask that?" Like, and the sad truth is, yeah, there's some families here that
mm,
if you vote for someone else that they would probably disown you. I
mm,
mean, it's sad, and I know people outside US think that that's crazy. And trust me, as an American, it is crazy that your own family would turn against you, but sadly does happen. It
mm,
is a sad thing that happens, but I always say, I'm not going to judge who you vote for. I could really care less who you vote for and your beliefs. I mean, if you want to vote for Trump, vote for Trump. If you wanted to vote for Harris or any other person in our party. I don't
Mm,
care. I don't care. It doesn't affect me. It's not going to affect my life if you vote for someone. I'm not going to really care. I think we just need to stop as a society judging people for their opinion because all it is just a simple opinion that they have.
mm,
And we live in our motto is like they could get offended by it saying I could say, well, I like using scissors, and then they could be like, and I could pick up like a green pair of scissors, and then someone, and it'd be like a multicolored set, and then someone could go, why did you get the blue one? Why'd you pick up the green
yeah.
one? And I'm like, why does it matter if I picked up green scissors? They do the same damn thing. Like, like what? Who the fuck cares? I don't understand why
Yeah.
you, and it's, and I know people are thinking, I'm telling you, there's probably someone out there here they would get offended with that.
Yeah, yeah.
They would get offended with that.
Yeah, and this is where like trying to remove emotional bias out of things as well becomes really important, right? Like so yeah, there was a thing that went around on TikTok where some lady was making a pie, like a cherry pie or something. And then people were on there commenting, I don't like cherries. Well, that's not for you. Like, what do you mean? Shut up. Move on. You know? Like, can I make this without cherries? No, it's a cherry pie. Like, so um you have people that uh there's a self-centeredness that I think has festered in society a little bit as well.
Hmm.
And being again, so social media and stuff really encourages this like almost like narcissistic tendencies on things where it's like, well, I'm offended by you. Okay. What do you want me to do about it? Like just by
Hmm.
my existence, you're offended by me? Like, and there are some people that have that. Like, you're offended by cherries. Don't buy cherries. But cherries still exist. You still have to live in a world where cherries exist, right? You can't just get rid
Hmm.
of all cherries because you don't like them. So deal with it. Be an adult, grow up, and just deal with it, right? And this is where, again, like with the politics of the world, where it's so based in ideology, uh, you can't have a discussion with someone when they want to, you know, get rid of you from the planet. You know, if you're a cherry, you can't have a discussion with someone who hates cherries, right?
Hmm.
So, weird analogy I've landed on, but
Well, sadly, it's the truth. Let's
yeah,
be for real.
you can't you need to um, be open to other people's ideas and values and beliefs as well. Like I said, I'm atheist. I don't care about people who have religion. That's my view. You know, I when I first, I grew up Irish Catholic, very, guilt-driven Catholic, kind of upbringing, right? When I started to sort of fall into the world of atheism and discover it, I didn't even know it was really an option for most of my life. There was this movement online of very almost uh, militaristic atheism, right? Of you have to believe in nothing, because that's the only thing. And if you believe in anything, you believe in any sort of spirit or connection to a divine or anything spirituality based, you're not proper, right? And we should ridicule everyone that's religious. And you're like, no, I get it. I get why you would be religious. If you're not doing anything to harm anyone, I don't care, right? You do you. And so many people are like so self-absorbed in their own ideology that it's like well, you can't do you because I don't like it. Okay. Again, you don't need to eat cherry pie, man. You don't have to believe in my religion. You don't have to believe in the way that I want to live life. Um, but it's there. We're here, and you're gonna have to put up with it. You have to be the bigger person and put up with it. Um, and yeah, and that's where such a divide happens as well, is you can't talk with people when you're just butting heads.
To really sum up what both of us are saying is that we don't care. You should go on, live life the way you want it. Who cares what people are going to think? Just go for what's right. Just believe in what you want to believe in. Don't judge people, and more twerking Bigfoot videos is what
Yeah,
we
yeah,
need more. We
yeah,
need more of
totally.
those. So,
Come to the center. Bigfoot twerking is the center. So let's all move in towards a shared reality of Bigfoot twerks. Yeah.
mhm. Well, I'm very much enjoyed this conversation with you. I appreciate you so much. Please plug everything that you have, social media, website. Feel free to promote your book as well. Just plug it all.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, thanks for having me. No, it has been great. And yeah, like you can get my book, Unmasking Deception, everywhere they sell books, Amazon, the audio is on Spotify if you care to listen to my voice, read it out. You can find me on TikTok as Jägermeister. I am on other platforms, but more my business related. But yeah, if you want to go check it out, let me know what you feel. Hopefully, come and follow me along. And with the work that I do, with my business, Meister Creative, that's making documentaries. And when making documentaries, you're all about seeking the truth. And that's what I hope to encourage a lot more people to do is seek the truth. Don't get stuck in your ideologies, and let's just try and get along and be nice. We're floating on a rock in the middle of space. Be here for the journey. Let's enjoy it and be nice to one another.
Absolutely. As I always do, I'll put his information in the description box as well, so all of his links will be located in one place, so you don't have to go out and searching for it. For my socials, I'm on Instagram and TikTok, Lethal Venom Podcast. Follow those to keep updates on new episodes, some teasers and trailers, as well as surveys. Of course, I don't do surveys when I have a guest on. But when I do solo ones, I have surveys out for you guys to participate in. For my Facebook, it's Noah's Podcast. All the updates for this podcast as well as my other two podcasts are on there. Um, YouTube is the same way. I post all the audio versions of the podcast on there as well. And of course, Lethal Venom, Music Talks, and Southern Reads are all available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Pandora, basically wherever podcasts are available. Um, Aaron, did you have any last remarks before signing off?
No, really, I just appreciate it. I hope your listeners have got something out of it, and that's it. I just encourage people to really to look behind what's being presented and try and come together to a central truth.
Well, I wanted to say a huge thank you to Aaron for being on the podcast today, and hopefully you guys learn something from this and don't take life seriously. Just live the life you have, just because it's so short. But thank y'all so much for listening. Hope y'all have a great rest of your day, night, week, whenever you're listening to it, and I'll catch y'all in the next episode of Lethal Venom.